the Horror Review Sunday. Today we are talking about Maniac. This was selected by a Patreon to review this week. And let's talk about it. So, this stars Elijah Wood and is directed by Frank Calhoun, who I think directed P2, which is one of my favorite Christmas horror movies out there, like top 5. Not the best, but it's up there. It's written by Alexandre Aja, who has written all kinds of horror movies. This guy is excellent. One of the horror writers to look out for. And this, I would say, is probably one of the best horror remakes of the 2000s and 2010s, easily. I put this up there with like Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is phenomenal. I have like nothing negative to say about this movie, so this is going to be a quick review. The more I like a movie, the shorter the review usually, unless I have a lot of questions and nitpicks like my Friday the 13th review, which I just did recently. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll leave a card somewhere for you to watch it. I go fully in depth and I raise a lot of good questions and nitpicks that you probably never thought about. So, let's focus on Maniac. What do I have to say about this movie? Well, first up, I love the score of this film. It's like a throwback to 80s. It's done by a guy named Rob. It just says composed by Rob, so I'm not sure if that's like an acronym for something. But the score is just fantastic from beginning to end. It's very much like 80s. It's like a synthesizer and like a piano. It just sets the right mood. And the tone of this movie from beginning to end, it is like never like joyful. It's never entertaining. It's just dark and gruesome because of the K and B effects. The effects in this movie are seriously like the most realistic I've ever seen. Like the scalpings, the guy getting torn apart. Then like I'll get into it in my spoiler discussion when I really talk about these death scenes. They are freaking fantastic. Like this is like the movie that you would show affects people who want to like become the next K and B or the next Tom Savini. Have them study this movie because it's fantastic. Every single kill in this movie is awesome. It's hard to like pick your favorite. And plenty of nudity and gorgeous women. Everybody in this movie is stunning, so it's got all those boxes checked. Lots of boobage, lots of gratuitous nudity. The guy stalking in like the locker room, and then he takes the prostitute home, or he takes like a girl he met online home. So there's slight callbacks to the original. There's slight scenes that are like kind of reminiscent of the original, and there's even one callback to like the poster of the original 1980 movie, which I thought was awesome. Such a clever callback, a little homage. That's how you do it. If you're gonna pay respect to the first one, that's how you do it. I also like the fact that this is POV. It's like POV almost 90% of the time. There's some moments where like pulls away and you see like him doing the killings, and it's almost like implying that he's not really him in that moment and something else is taking over. It's like an out of body experience or something like that. But then there's other moments where he's like having memories and seeing it from a different angle. But the idea of a POV slasher movie is just brilliant. Why aren't there more? Like this is the only one where the entire movie is POV. It's the only one that I know of slasher wise. We need more of these, clearly. And it's very artistic too. There's plenty of eerie, bloody visuals, and just it's very artistic. Like the score, the cinematography, it all works for me. There's like nothing bad I can say about this movie. It's a very artistic movie that really just makes you think afterwards. Just scenes where you're like, what does this mean? Like it's something that you can like dissect and like try to study. Like, all right, what is going on in this killer's mind? Because this whole movie focuses on Frank, and I love that too. I love a slasher that just focuses on the killer, because you don't get that too often. It's usually the killer's, hiding in the background, he's stalking, or, it's revealed in the third act who is this person. In this movie, we focus on him the entire time. We really get to know this guy, what drove him to this. He had a crazy bad mom who would fuck people right in front of him and snort coke with like dollar bills. She was basically a prostitute, and this guy works with mannequins. So if you're scared of mannequins, there's plenty of creepy mannequin imagery in the movie also that works. Plus, not only is there mannequins, but they're mannequins with scalps on them. Bloody scalps, which creates even more awesome visuals. It's even on the poster. You got the mannequin with the scalp on top. Just awesome stuff like that. I love it. It's very disturbing too. This whole movie, like when I was watching, I'm like, man, this is not for everyone. Like this is some disturbing stuff. It almost feels dirty even watching it. Like, ooh, I shouldn't be watching this. Just watching this guy sneak into people's restrooms, into locker rooms, and then how he kills them. It's just brutal.
You're so beautiful.
So at the end of the day, final thoughts. I think this is a very shocking, brutal, very artsy, nasty, gruesome movie that if you're a fan of like gore and some nudity and gorgeous ladies, it's got all those slasher boxes checked without feeling like a cheesy 80s throwback. It's definitely one of the best slasher movies of the last 10 years and definitely one of the best remakes out there. So when it comes to the Maniac remake, I highly recommend buying this because to me, it is a masterpiece. If I had anything bad to say about this movie, is that the main girl, Anna, we don't get to see her naked, and she's like the most attractive woman in the movie, and her dickhead boyfriend gets to live. What the fuck? Although it wouldn't make sense if he killed her, if he killed the boyfriend because he's a guy. He typically targets women, so I guess that wouldn't make sense if he killed him. But he's a dick, and he deserves it. Now the spoiler discussion. So automatically it's POV, and we see that he's stalking this girl. He knows where she lives. I don't know how. He just does. Maybe he looked her up on that dating site, and that's how he figured it out. But yeah, he stalks her home. We see him cut the power off with the Bowie knife. That's his choice of weapons, like a big old Bowie knife. Cool, intimidating, badass blade choice of weapon. And then it's like one shot when the kill starts. He just stuffs the blade right under her throat as she's about to scream. He's like, "Don't scream," and she's about to go, and bam, up through the mouth. You see it like in her mouth when it's open, and then he just starts cutting her scalp away, and she falls forward. Maniac title card, awesome. What an awesome, gruesome opening to set the tone for this grisly film. And then we see that he's on a dating site, and which is just scary as a woman to think about that you could be talking to Frank on the on your dating site, and he's like a smooth talker. He just knows the right things to say. He shows them the right pictures. He plays like the cyber version. He's like, "This is my first time. I'm so timid." Like that's his like username is Timid Man, and he just gets this easy girl. He gets lucky. Like I've been on dating sites. It's not that easy. All right, these girls would never talk to this guy. They don't talk to me. They ain't gonna talk to this guy. All right, and he looks creepier than me. Elijah Wood isn't the most attractive guy, especially the way he looks in this movie. He just looks psycho, like his bug eyes. And I like that too. I like that they didn't do the original approach. Like the first one is like an overweight, sweaty guy with long black hair. He's not the most attractive guy in the world, like period. So comparing that guy to Elijah Wood, he's an Abercrombie and Fitch model compared to that guy in the original. So he looks like the everyday guy, and I like that approach. Kind of reminds me of Blood Diner, even though it's a completely different type of movie on every aspect. But the main killers in that movie are like regular looking folks. They're kind of attractive. They're just regular dudes, and they're psycho like Anthony Perkins. I guess that would have been the better analogy. Is psycho. Anthony Perkins. You know, he doesn't look like a psycho, but he is. Same thing with Elijah Wood's character. He looks normal. So then we see like he has these anxiety attacks, and I just love this moment in the movie. It just really like lets you know who you're dealing with and what's going on in his psyche. He sees everybody in the diner like looking at him, even though they're not really, but in his mind they are. And then he's looking at his date, and she's just bleeding from the scalp. Like he's like hungry for murder, I guess. Like he's just like itching to kill her. Like that's the way he wants to see her, or something. Like there's just so many moments in this movie where you're like, I wonder what that means. You could just really think about it. Like it could mean this or it could mean that. You can just have your own interpretation for like certain moments in the movie. Like the fact that he starts to see himself as a mannequin. Like he has mannequin hands, and then he has a mannequin crotch, and then at the very end he has a mannequin face. Like he connects with them because reasons that you can come up with. Like to me, it's just like as a cold-hearted, soulless serial killer who can just kill people easy peasy. I guess that's his connection to the mannequins because they're also soulless. Maybe like they have no emotions, and clearly this guy doesn't either, because who could do such terrible things to people who are gorgeous and blowing you? I love that scene. It's one of the best scenes in the movie. He takes this easy chick home, and I say easy because she is so willing to go bang this guy after that awkward date. He did nothing to suggest that it was a great date, but she's like, I really had a good time with you. It's like, really? He like left 2 minutes into your date to the restroom all panicky. He was acting shifty. He drives a minivan with mannequin parts in the back, and you're like, hey, I want to fuck you. Clearly, this girl is easy. So, and then I'm gonna go get more comfortable. We know what that means. She gets naked, and then she plays the Silence of the Lambs song on, which is just awesome. What a fun callback to that film, Silence of the Lambs. But yeah, she plays that song. They go in bed, and then she starts blowing him, and then he strangles her. It's like, why? Why would you do that? It's so dumb. She was blowing you. That's like the person I feel the most sorry for in the entire movie. I'm like, oh, why? Why would you do that? Yeah, like he puts like these mannequin dolls in sex positions. He's like a very pervy guy. Like he wants to have sex, but every time it happens, like the mom side of him gets jealous or something because he's like, why did you make me do that? He's like yelling at his mom, I guess. His mom died a year ago and he's been killing ever since. And it's kind of like, it's almost very reminiscent of like the relationship between Norman Bates and his mom, where the mom side of Norman would get jealous and kill if Norman was in love. It's kind of got that going on in here because the chick's going down on him and then he kills her and then he's like blaming mom, like, why did you make me do it? So I think that's kind of what they were going for, because even at the end he's like, he thinks he found mom reincarnated in this other woman. He's like, did you not think I knew who you were? Like, he kidnaps this other woman, takes her. He's like, yeah, I know. He goes to her place, and he's like, "You didn't think I recognized you?" I think that's implying that he thinks that's his mom. So he's like, I love you. No other guy's gonna love you. So it's clearly like a boy loving his mom. The mom's his best friend type of thing. And since his mom died, that's what really snapped him. That, and the fact that, like I said earlier, his mom was banging dudes all the time in front of him. So clearly, that would make sense that he would be fucked up, and it's the mom's fault. I love the scene where he's like looking for the next victim. It's just, again, creepy if you're like looking at it as a woman. Like, you're walking down the street and some psycho looked at you and you were potentially the next victim, but then some meter maid like saved your life by distracting him. Like, that's just crazy to think about. It's not something you want to think about. Like, how many murderers were looking at me today when I was walking through New York. I don't know how he snuck into the locker room. You just kind of have to like, whatever. He just walks right in, hides in the locker room, and then they walk out, and somehow he beat them outside. I don't get that. But yeah, more nudity in that scene. And then I love this kill. It's so vicious. He like stabs her right in the ankle, and then her like ankle snaps because she's wearing high heels. And then he starts stabbing her repeatedly in the back, and then like the camera pulls away, like it's like an out of body experience or something. That's kind of how I read it. And then he just scalps her, and then we get the iconic like poster shot of the original movie where he's got the boots on, it's just the legs, and he's holding the scalp, and he's got the Bowie knife in the hand. Awesome, awesome poster shot. And then he's like having an orgasm while he's doing it too. Right after he pulls her scalp off, it's like he's getting off on it, which is just another interesting thing about his character, that he seems to be getting off on it while at the same time not taking responsibility. He's like putting it off on his mom, who's dead. And then Anna, despite how lovely of a woman she is, I do find it odd, her fascination with mannequins. I will always think that's odd. But ladies, do not do what Anna did in this movie, all right? Do not go out on a date with a guy without telling him right up front, like, this is not a date. I have a boyfriend, because the way she does it is shitty. Sorry, but it is. You do not go on a date to the pond, pet the ducks, feed them, have a sandwich, spend so much time together. Clearly, the guy's in love with you. I guess she thought he had a girlfriend because he had like lipstick on his face, but then she takes him to the movies, and they're just having this great chemistry together. He's clearly in love with her. She sees him staring at him while they're watching the movie. She's like, "Stop staring at me. Watch the movie." And then after the movie's over, she gets a phone call from her boyfriend, hangs up, and she's like, "Oh, that was my boyfriend. You want to go hang out with him at the bar?" bullshit move. That's a bad move. Do not do that. That is like, that's the only moment in the movie where I'm like, honestly, fuck you, Anna. Like, I like you, but that's a dick move. Don't do that. But I do like in that theater scene where he's watching, like, you know, this murder take place in this old horror movie. He starts to see, like, his murders taking place. It's, like, reminding him of what he did. I like that. And then when he finds out that Anna has a boyfriend, he goes outside and he sees his mom getting banged, and then all of a sudden she turns into Anna. So it's like he's mad and he's envisioning her getting laid by someone else. So it's like everybody else gets to get laid except for him. He's like all upset about it. And then we get this bitch who's like insulting him at this art gallery show, like, how about I destroy your mannequins for you or something like that? Like, what do you do? Dumpster dive for these things or junk? So she deserves it. He follows her home. She's taking the bubble bath with candles all around, towel in the face, red wine. How cliche. I guess all women do that, right? It's like such a trope for like older women that just, I guess, love bubble baths with red wine and 20 candles around. But yeah, like this scene, like he just drowns her. It's like the most tense scene in the movie because she's like, oh my gosh, what's he gonna do? He's just like watching her bathe, shoves her head down, and then you think she's dead, but then she's like hog-tied on the bed, and then he starts talking to her like she's his mom, and then he scalps her. He's like, you're not going out tonight, which is I think a callback to the slogan. Like that was the tagline of the original film, like don't go out tonight or something like that.
You will not go out tonight. Is that clear? You will stay home with me.
And then yeah, the boyfriend's a dick. I don't know why he doesn't die. Like he thinks that Frank is gay. I guess the sweater he's wearing maybe told him that, but he's like, I'm not gay. He's like, what? And then he like dries his hand off on him, like, fuck you. That guy needed to die. But I love that line. She's like, don't kill me. He's like, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna keep you. That's like the quote of the movie. That's my favorite line in the movie. I'm gonna keep you. And then we see this gay friend of Anna's, and he's like, I'm in a toothpaste commercial. Ding! He's got like white teeth, perfect teeth, and then later on he gets a meat cleaver right to the mouth, destroying all his teeth. Very ironic, to say the least. And yeah, it's just, and then like Frank all of a sudden is like powerful enough to like throw that gay guy's body. I think his name was Martin. He throws Martin right through the door, so I'm not sure where all his strength came from. Frank's been hitting the weights, apparently, to impress Anna. But yeah, he kidnaps Anna, he takes her back, and then he opens the door, she's alive, she stabs him with the mannequin hand. Awesome. And then she's like running away, she gets in the car, she runs his ass over. I'm not sure like why the guy didn't stop. Like she took control of the wheel, but that doesn't explain why that guy who was driving the car still had his foot on the gas. Like you could have just hit the brakes or did something, grabbed a stick shift, put it in park or something. But she crashes into Frank, like, fuck this guy, let's run him over, we need to kill him. And then we see this, it's still POV, awesome shot. He hits the ground, looks over, car hits like a block of something, like a road block. And then she just goes flying out the windshield, hits her head, blood splat, goes over, scalps her. Awesome. What a great shot. What a grim ending. He kills Anna, the only light of this movie, the only like good character, like pure woman, except for that dick move about not telling him you had a boyfriend, but the only awesome, like the most gorgeous girl, and then she gets scalped and totally fucked up in that car accident. And then he like proposes to her. He makes her like a mannequin that looks like her, and it puts her scalp on it like he does the other victims. And then all the other victims come to life. And at first, they look normal. There's no damage done to them. And then once they start killing him, they have the scalped like tops. So it's almost like he's realizing what he did now, and like his demons are like, all his past sins are coming back to like haunt him, and he's now like realized that it wasn't his mom, it's been him this whole time. He's a monster, and now he realizes it, and now it's like he's tearing himself apart, like mentally, and he can't take it no more. So he ends up going into the closet to like stab himself, I think, or shoot himself. I'm not sure what he did to himself really, but in his mind, he's getting torn apart. His leg gets ripped off, his arm gets bent backwards, and then they start tearing his face apart, and the effects are amazing. this is just such fantastic, phenomenal effects right here. It's in my horror opening for this review, actually. If you watch the whole thing, I have the Maniac scene in there. And then, like, he's a mannequin underneath. Like, he's just a hollow, soulless, evil person. And that's how I see it. So, like, he's just a mannequin. And even at one point, he sees, like, a mannequin version of himself as a kid. And I like that he dies in the closet, where, as a kid, that's essentially where he died mentally as a child. Like, that's where it was no longer the same kid no more. That's where he mentally started to snap, because that's where he was when he saw his mom, banging two dudes snorting coke. So he died in the closet mentally that day, and then killed himself in that probably the same closet many years later. So I thought that was kind of poetic to die there, physically and mentally. So yeah, I think that's about it. I probably skipped a couple little things, but whatever. So those are my thoughts on Maniac, the remake. I think this is a phenomenal movie. Prove me wrong. Talk about it in the comments below. What is your favorite horror remake? Do you like this one over the original? I do know a guy named Derek who loves the original. I'm not going to review that one. I don't own it. Sorry. I like to review movies I own, because that's how I get my clips that I show you. So, yeah, let me know what you thought about this movie versus the original. And if you like what you see here, you can hit this like button, share it with all your friends, and become a Patreon for as little $1 a month to request movie reviews like this one. And you can become a subscriber today if you haven't done so already, just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.